He bears the quiet certainty of a scholar who has finally uncovered the true name of the forbidden technique. The weight of that knowledge settles upon him like a blade sheathed at his side, foretelling the storm it may unleash. Still carrying the weight of that revelation, he turns his thoughts to the notion of brilliance itself, questioning whether a genius truly exists. He dismisses the title for himself, insisting that Django alone deserves the mantle of genius. Before he can steady his resolve, his mind sharpens on a new comparison, noting the opponent is relative weakness yet astounding intellect, even at a tender age. He wonders what name should be given to the one who shattered the supposed genius with merely 2 decisive moves. With that contemplation lingering, he acknowledges a man beyond explanation, a force that would remain unmoved even by the galaxy's strongest warrior. In a single stroke, this enigma felled a member of his own clan, one counted among the 7 greatest, confirming a talent that borders on the unreal. Yet beneath that awe, his eyes fix on the sword is elegant harmony, a facade that conceals an element alien to Kangho. He challenges the observers to name the 2 anomalies that could not belong to the realm of mortals. The realization strikes like a flash, the figure spoken of is none other than the one who once held the Green Sword Almanac. This connection deepens the mystery, tying the elusive technique to a legacy of forbidden knowledge. Still shrouded in uncertainty, he urges endurance and a steadfast defense against the rising threat, though he admits no guarantees can be promised. The caution hangs heavy, a reminder that even preparation may falter before destiny. Before his thoughts could settle, he reflects on the relentless use of the technique, despite the Emperor's sword proving insufficient. He hails the opponent as blade as perfect, describing the method as one that anticipates every possible motion, dominates the battlefield, and renders the adversary powerless. That description elevates the wielder to mythic stature, proclaiming him a sword god among mortals. The reverence underscores the unparalleled mastery now looming over the conflict. Yet his presence summons memories of the 3 immortals, a haunting echo of legends long thought dead. The comparison binds the present crisis to the ancient tapestry of unslayable heroes. Amid these towering legends, he wonders how an older brother, who has shared every breath of his life, could remain ignorant of such a martial art. The question pierces the bond, exposing a fissure of forgotten teachings. Still haunted by that doubt, he observes the younger's transformation into a confident martial artist, now able to perceive the flow of energy itself. He recalls a 10-year-old self bathed in a breathtaking sunset, a moment of beauty that now fuels the fire within. The memory deepens as he describes how, beneath a solitary tree behind their house, tears fell beside a trunk stained with blood, a sight mistaken for soreness after training. The crimson backdrop hints at a pain far beyond flesh. With that image lingering, he ponders the true source of those tears, weighing the specter of Dap the bandit victim against the lingering sorrow for a lost mother. The inner turmoil suggests motives hidden beneath a veil of grief. He confesses that revenge once guided his heart, yet acknowledges it was never the genuine reason for his sorrow. The admission unravels a deeper, more personal wound. The revelation sharpens, it was because of him, and no physical scar marked the wound at all. The intangible nature of that hurt makes it all the more haunting. He questions whether the bond truly makes him a brother, daring anyone else to weep like an infant beside him, before branding him a damned bastard. The accusation reverberates with bitter resentment. Still clinging to the disbelief, he insists that understanding remains out of reach, while arrogantly proclaiming his own genius. The hubris fuels the tension between them. The bastard, now turning away, declares his intent to return and demands a reason for the lingering hesitation. The departure adds a note of unresolved conflict. He warns that the path has been taken too far, probing whether nerves prick after amassing countless foes, and offers a brief solace: protection of his house would bring relief. The conditional mercy hangs like a fragile promise. Amid the uneasy truce, he apologizes before revealing his lineage within the Namgung family, insisting that a summons to the clan head is inevitable. The heritage pulls him back into the web of clan duty. He orders an immediate report to the alliance, yet after observing a sparring match he changes his mind, seeking permission to join warrior Jo Hwi instead. The shift signals a strategic realignment. He asks whether this is truly his desire, noting that no command from the Alliance compels him, and affirms his willingness to bear full responsibility. The pledge underscores a personal stake in the unfolding plan. He mentions a leap into the Huqianrian region, questioning the ultimate goal while noting that, unlike most Namgong warriors, this newcomer remains untested in Kangho, with countless paths still untraveled. The open frontier amplifies the uncertainty. He cautions that the Alliance's spy network is not something YOL can dismiss, implying that an unnamed figure concealed crucial information from assassins to save them. The secrecy adds another layer of intrigue. He wonders if such a maneuver could succeed, naming Namchang as the destination and describing an undefeatable, unknown master whose existence challenges all expectations, even if permission were granted. The specter of an invincible opponent looms. He scoffs at the notion of reconstructing the Alliance's spy association, branding the effort as nothing but bullshit. The contempt reflects his frustration with bureaucratic schemes. Yet he suggests that the reconstruction bears no relevance to the protagonist, while probing whether the gathered intelligence might still serve his interests. The promise of advantage flickers amid the dismissal. He offers cooperation, stating that the will of a higher authority has been conveyed, and seeks explicit permission to proceed. The request formalizes the uneasy alliance. He then declares a condition attached to that cooperation, a subtle warning that the agreement bears hidden stipulations. The clause hints at future complications. If a request for permission were being considered, he must inform that it cannot be granted, questioning the motive behind such a plea and noting an excessive righteousness. The denial underscores moral rigidity. He asks whether the legal family upholds righteousness comparable to theirs, yet hesitates, revealing doubts about their own standards. The introspection betrays internal conflict. Finally, he inquires if the man possessed knowledge of Zhang Yilriang, a name that carries weight within the tangled narrative. The question closes the chain of revelations with a lingering mystery. The gathering of heirs surrounded Yao, their gazes sharp as they questioned why the Forest King had remained idle for 6 years. Their demand was clear: reveal every secret, or face the consequences. Still bearing the weight of that interrogation, a seasoned voice warned that serving as a spy among Yal's enemies jeopardized his very life. He urged Yal to seek the truth about the evil faction from the veteran warrior Zhang Yilriang. Before he could steady himself, the speaker pressed further, asking whether the other party had business with them, if they were present, and what event had triggered this confrontation. With that clarification looming, the reply came that they had come to learn manners, specifically, the ways of the hostile faction. Yet the probing mind lingered, demanding a deeper explanation of those very ways that defined the evil faction. Acknowledging the gravity of the inquiry, they promised to exit the room with the utmost respect, each step measured and deliberate. Still carrying the echo of that respectful departure, the speaker asked what the other was truly saying and insisted that proper reverence must be shown to the appropriate figure. With that insistence still resonating, a curious challenge arose: why not mark their allegiance to the righteous sect upon their foreheads as a bold declaration? Yet the tension persisted as the question turned to whether they had treated Namgong Django with the same open-handedness. Meanwhile, doubts surfaced about why the disciplined customs of the righteous sect had not taken root within Yao, casting doubt on whether any correction was possible. With that doubt hanging heavy, a new resolve formed: others were plotting to seize their interests by force, and those bastards must be stopped. Still confronting that looming threat, the speaker queried whether the other party intended to aid in defending their business. Before the discussion could settle, a rule was invoked: no longer should combatants utter skill names aloud during battle. Yet the speaker could not help but ask why anyone would still be shouting skill names while fighting. With that irritation lingering, a description emerged of a duplicitous villain whose twisted pastime was hurling weapons at newcomers with a smiling facade. Meanwhile, the speaker scoffed at how a martial artist could be so shameless, recalling the nickname "affection-sucking puppy" that clung to him. Still wary of hidden dangers, a warning was issued about a man feigning disability, whose iron leg ambush had already claimed countless masters. With that caution still fresh, the speaker declared that there is no such thing as a single normal person, everyone is touched by madness. Yet the discourse turned colder as the speaker asked whether the other understood why sect masters were relentless and brutal, noting that such cold hearts were essential for survival. Before the argument could cool, a restriction was placed on Yao. He may not grip the fan in that manner nor draw upon the energy of an educated man. Still bound by that constraint, the speaker wondered if the other intended to continue making public announcements. With that curiosity lingering, a probing question arose about the perspective of those who scrape for food compared to the privilege of wealthy families. Meanwhile, a vivid portrayal emerged of a figure who would unsheath his sword after a single insult. Yet the narrative stressed that a member of the evil sect would not be so easily provoked by a fleeting slight. With that in mind, the speaker noted that what might be taken as a compliment in their world could turn into a test of composure when someone mentions one's parents. Still holding that tension, they declared that they would face each other and unspool every negative thought they could muster. Meanwhile, a rebuke rang out, questioning why a talented individual was squandering potential here, and observing how easily one could become accustomed to a barrage of insults. With that rebuke echoing, a pragmatic suggestion followed: keep the mouth shut, avoid conflict, hide the face beneath a cap, and masquerade as a simple passerby. Still considering that disguise, the speaker agreed that pretending to be an escort or something similar was indeed a sound strategy. Yet the lingering question persisted: when would they finally depart? Before long, the answer arrived: they would announce a leave of absence and set out after completing a few minor errands. Meanwhile, intelligence surfaced that at least 8,000 martial artists roamed Huqianrian, half of them stationed in Nanchang. With that staggering number in mind, the speaker detailed techniques capable of detecting life energy, amplifying sound sense across vast distances, and granting X-ray vision through flesh. Still awestruck, he explained that one could engage over 100 masters simultaneously, even surpassing 30 great masters, turning such prowess into a decisive advantage. Yet the conversation turned to personal capabilities, listing immunity to many poisons, resistance to cold, a steel-like body, and a unity with the sword. With all those powers laid bare, every plan and tactic seemed insufficient against the other's talent, a fact that sent Jigul Shinjiai into a deep, unsettling fear. Still trembling from that admission, the precise assessment followed: that was the most accurate way to describe the situation. Finally, the lingering dread was named: the only person Jigul Shinjiai truly feared was the undefeatable master, a foe no strategy could ever overcome. The hierarchy of the Namgong clan stood beside the celestial swordsman as they announced his absolute mastery, a declaration that echoed through the hall like a thunderclap. The weight of that proclamation settled over the assembly, heralding a shift in the balance of power. Still resonating from the earlier declaration, he reluctantly acknowledges the peculiarity of his own transcendence, a flaw that pricks his pride. The admission casts a subtle doubt on the flawless image previously projected. Before his confession could settle, the conversation drifts to other transcendental masters, their names whispered as distant constellations in the same sky. Their mention underscores the vast hierarchy beyond his singular claim. Yet beneath that calm, the doctrine unfolds: to wield external energy without veering from their path, to steady the mind, and to cling to a righteous combat philosophy. Only by scaling the wall of transcendence could they hope to stand upon the true plateau. With that doctrine looming, he reveals how he swiftly seized transcendence within the sword grave, shaping a heavenly Godspeed body and commanding the meteor sword of heaven. The speed of his ascent now seems almost blinding. Meanwhile, Jigul Woon's boast of omniscience and invincibility crumbles under the revelation that he lacks basic arts like body lightning, face changing, and the heart-stopping breath. The gap between his claim and reality widens, exposing fragile arrogance. The lingering irony forces a stark confession: despite his lofty claims, he is merely a transcendental being, not the ultimate god he imagined. The truth settles like cold steel upon his shoulders. Still reeling from that self-assessment, the council reveals that their entire strategy hinged on unwavering faith in him. The reliance now feels both a blessing and a potential downfall. Yet beneath that confidence, a shadow of doubt surfaces, a quiet voice insisting the plan is doomed to fail. The omen hangs heavy over the gathered warriors. Undeterred, he frames the turmoil as a misunderstanding born from the elders of the Namgung clan, vowing to hold them accountable. The resolve to set the record straight adds a fierce spark to the tense atmosphere. Carrying the weight of that promise, he pledges to try his utmost, his determination burning against the backdrop of impending failure. The resolve steadies his stance even as doubts linger. With his effort freshly affirmed, he confirms the grueling outlaw training is now complete, each scar a testament to endurance. The completion signals a readiness that reverberates through the ranks. Before departing, he warns that he will be absent for some time, urging constant vigilance among his comrades. The parting words echo like a lingering warning in the hall. Still bearing the concern of his farewell, he challenges the surrounding nonsense, asserting that true martial arts embody moral righteousness and that transcendence should mirror that virtue. His question pierces the silence, demanding a definition of the divine. Reflecting on his own path, he admits his transcendence emerged through an unconventional route, shedding ego within the sword grave is void. The revelation reshapes the understanding of how power can be born. Yet he confesses he never pored over scriptures nor practiced formal techniques, prompting him to inquire which skills manifested during the recent battle. The query seeks to map raw instinct against recorded art. Before the answers arrive, he promises a future explanation that his familial station mirrors his rank, and he probes how much of the Namgung is martial repertoire he may absorb, barring the head is secret technique. The request hangs, balancing curiosity with reverence. Carrying that request forward, he formally asks to be instructed in the Namgung family's martial arts, eager to integrate their lineage into his own. The plea underscores his hunger for deeper mastery. His curiosity expands as he turns the question back, seeking to know which arts they yearn for while declaring his desire to master every permissible technique. The exchange fuels a shared ambition. He envisions wandering the streets of Kangho, brandishing their arts, and predicts that such display will amplify their renown across the region. The thought of fame adds a subtle pride to his tone. Before the council disperses, he offers personal gratitude to each present, his thanks resonating like a quiet bow. The appreciation cements the bonds forged in the heated debate. Shifting focus, he probes their opinion on the OLR family's heavenly wind steps, a technique shrouded in legend. The inquiry invites contemplation of rival mastery. Still lingering on that comparison, he seeks clarification on how the wind steps differ from the technique he just imparted. The question underscores his analytical mind. He then declares that he has stripped away every superfluous motion, refining the form to its purest essence while adding methods to heighten perfection. The refinement illustrates his relentless pursuit of efficiency. Yet, despite his confidence, a sudden admission slips: he cannot achieve a certain elusive aspect. The limitation hints at a boundary yet to be crossed. The performance, he notes, surpasses the original by a mere 10%, a marginal edge that nonetheless signals progress. The incremental gain fuels his resolve. He reflects that his lifelong study of the skill never led him to consider such unconventional movements, a revelation that reshapes his understanding of its potential. The hindsight sparks a newfound curiosity. Applying the principles of physics, he likens the motions to a figure skater's graceful glide, envisioning the harnessing of energy in a fluid, almost artistic manner. The scientific approach breathes fresh life into the ancient art. Eager to internalize the insight, he requests a slow, repeated demonstration of the technique. The plea reveals his dedication to mastering each nuance. His curiosity deepens as he wonders how these movements might thread together, linking disparate spaces along an invisible line. The question hints at a potential for spatial manipulation. He insists on first mastering the fundamentals of physics, embedding them as a habit before advancing to the next layer of technique. The disciplined approach underscores his methodical mindset. Amidst the technical discourse, he observes the emergence of a new Namgung, forged upon a 4-century-old tradition. The continuity of legacy grounds the present struggle. He paints a vision of an endless sky where a radiant sword soars alone, a tableau where nothing else seems to exist. The imagery captures the boundless freedom he aspires to. He declares that a common man lacks the capacity to master the OUV family is formidable martial arts, a stark reminder of the hierarchy of power. The statement separates the elite from the masses. Yet he challenges the label of ordinary, sensing a latent force within that particular man, an essence unattainable in this world. The inner conflict ignites a yearning for the unattainable. He alludes to an unseen anomaly that shatters every belief held by the OLR clan, a revelation that could overturn their foundations. The hidden truth looms ominously. He probes whether they have already confronted such an occurrence thrice in Yungwon, urging them to recall past encounters. The reminder forces reflection on repeated patterns. Confidently, he proclaims himself the inevitable successor to immortality, a destiny he embraces without hesitation. The bold claim reverberates like a thunderous oath. He asserts that he has displayed every OLR art save for the clandestine techniques guarded by the family head, a secret he still withholds. The omission maintains an air of mystery. His ambition turns to perfecting the emperor is sword shape, striving to execute it with flawless precision. The pursuit embodies his yearning for ultimate mastery. Yet, confronting the reality, he acknowledges that such perfection cannot be achieved, addressing his brother or uncle with a resigned tone. The denial marks a somber turning point. With the discussion winding down, he asks permission to depart, declaring that they have contributed all they can. The request signals the end of this intense exchange. He points out that Master Cho of Yolng occupies a seat nearby, a subtle indicator of hierarchy within the gathering. The observation underscores the presence of influential eyes. He proposes to evaluate the plan as execution while reminding everyone of the looming task to hunt down the spies. The reminder reignites a sense of mission. Finally, he confirms that those spies have been confronted, a terse acknowledgement that the hidden threat has been dealt with. The terse statement closes the chapter is covert subplot. A rumor spreads through the War Council that encountering the hidden spy would be considered a rare stroke of luck. The possibility of such a meeting flickers like a faint lantern in the darkness of their plans. It becomes a whispered thread of hope amid the looming conflict. Still holding that fragile hope, the commanders gather to map out the intelligence they must secure. The enemy is coffers, manpower, key participants, and the exact schedule of the upcoming strike. Their discussion sharpens the fog of uncertainty into a cold, methodical ledger. The weight of those details settles like iron on their shoulders. With the ledger of enemy data forming, they acknowledge that the alliance will dispatch at least 3 formidable battalions to Anli province should it fall. The prospect of such overwhelming force presses the room into a tense hush. It underscores the precarious balance they must maintain. Yet, before the tide can surge, they stress the necessity of sealing the border between Honam and Gwiju against incursions from Sekian and the Namgung family. The vision of a fortified line becomes a bulwark against a looming siege. Their resolve hardens as the map of defense spreads before them. Echoing the prior concerns, they recount that 4 troops, drawn from the Murim alliance and the Namgung family, joined the fray and emerged victorious. The triumph reverberates through the council, a fleeting beacon of confidence. Yet the memory of that clash still lingers, reminding them of the cost of victory. Building on that hard-won success, they predict a strategy of heavy pressure on their foes while deliberately avoiding a full-scale confrontation. The plan teeters between aggression and restraint, a dance on a razor's edge. Their eyes narrow as they contemplate the delicate balance of power. Still weighing the calculus of pressure, they deem the optimal outcome to be the conversion of the northern part of Gangseo into an allied stronghold. Such a foothold would shift the strategic tide in their favor. The prospect fuels a quiet determination among the leaders. Simultaneously, they envision the best possible result as the absorption of a portion of Helkianrian into their sphere of influence. The idea of annexation glimmers like a prize beyond reach. It adds a layer of ambition to their already intricate design. Amid these grand designs, They note that a local business owner remains oblivious to Hyukyunri and his true strength, posing a naive question that borders on folly. The ignorance serves as a stark reminder of the information gap they must bridge. It sharpens their resolve to educate and manipulate the unaware. In response, they declare that their own company will formally request assistance from the alliance. The overture signals a willingness to intertwine their fate with greater powers. It also marks a pivotal step toward consolidating resources for the looming conflict. With alliances forming, they calculate a 90% probability that Hyukyunri will launch an attack on Hap Bi. The statistical certainty hangs over their heads like a storm cloud. It forces the council to accelerate preparations for an imminent onslaught. Amid the threat, they remind themselves that the Namgung family stands behind them, ready to lend aid, and that they themselves are an unstoppable Gosu. The confidence radiates from their words like fire. Yet that bravado masks the underlying tension of the coming battle. Further compounding the danger, they acknowledge that Hyukyunri commands thousands of elite warriors, over 20 of whom are nearly invincible. The sheer scale of that force dwarfs their own ranks. The realization settles like a heavy shroud over their strategic calculations. Despite the mounting pressure, they refuse to divulge their secret plans to outsiders, fearing that revelation would bind them to unwanted alliances. The secrecy becomes a shield as much as a cage. Their caution underscores the delicate web of trust they navigate. When pressed about the consequences of dissent, they query whether imprisonment awaits, while affirming that participation in the scheme is mandatory. The question hangs in the air like an accusation. It highlights the coercive undercurrent driving the coalition forward. In the quiet moments that follow, they voice a stark disbelief in any promises made by fickle allies. The cynicism drips from their tone, a protective veneer against betrayal. It reinforces the hardened resolve that now defines their stance. Yet, they concede that only 2 signatures are needed to legitimize the emerging pact. The minimal requirement offers a sliver of hope for swift consolidation. It becomes a focal point for the finalizing of their agreement. They demand a full briefing of the plan, comment on the inspector's palpable impatience, and wonder what fate awaits should the Jo family abandon Hap Bi. The inquiries peel back layers of uncertainty, exposing the fragile threads binding their allies. The tension rises as answers remain just out of reach. Reflecting on his own role, he admits never having seen himself as a mere salesman, and asks what title truly fits the work he has carried out. The introspection adds a personal dimension to the larger machinations. It hints at an identity crisis simmering beneath the strategic surface. He then declares that a long-established culture is irreplaceable, understood only by those who have lived its traditions. The statement reverberates as both pride and warning. It underscores the depth of heritage they are fighting to preserve. Building on that reverence, they assert that his business controls every facet of that culture and intends to sell it to Gangseo. The ambition to commodify tradition feels both audacious and unsettling. It foreshadows a looming clash over ownership of identity. They caution that the sheer power of Hyukyunri is terrifying, and that the retreat of their own enterprise from Gangseo will become a public spectacle. The dread of such a withdrawal gnaws at their confidence. It paints a picture of a possible surrender that would echo through the region. With that warning in mind, they question whether Gangseo can endure the loss of their presence, emphasizing their control over both culture and the Jo family is commerce. The doubt presses upon the council like a blade. It forces them to weigh the cost of withdrawal against the price of dominance. They then claim that even the expansive Murim alliance cannot sway their position. The proclamation rings with defiant confidence, echoing the earlier boasts of invincibility. It adds another layer of isolation to their hardened resolve. In a bitter aside, they liken their adversaries to worthless dogs, casting them as bastards unworthy of respect. The contempt drips from their words, sharpening the animosity already brewing. It fuels the fire that will soon engulf the battlefield. Yet they temper that venom with a cold calculation. A massive investment ranging from 100 to 100,000 coins is required, and they openly disdain the Jo family as modest enterprises. The financial magnitude looms like a towering mountain. Their contempt underscores the stark power imbalance at play. They reveal that half of their income stems from the Anhul smithy, which supplies weaponry to an army of 30,000 men. The sheer scale of that operation showcases their industrial might. It is a chilling reminder of the resources they command. Further details emerge. The Anhue smithy earned 55,000 gold coins from arms sales to the 30,000-strong force over 6 months, plus an additional 20,000 from repairs and equipment. The numbers paint a picture of relentless production. The profit margins deepen the shadow of their war machine. Armed with that wealth, they announce plans to invest about 100 gold coins, with the promise to increase the stake if necessary, and to challenge manager Jiggle. The declaration carries the weight of a bold gamble. It sets the stage for a confrontation that could reshape their hierarchy. Reflecting on his own ambitions, they expected to become chief operations with half the salary previously offered, noting that a person's price is dictated by circumstance. The assessment of value feels both pragmatic and ruthless. It emphasizes the mercurial nature of loyalty in these circles. Amid the financial scheming, they request instruction in arithmetic, seeking the tools to navigate the complex dealings ahead. The simple plea stands out against the backdrop of grand strategies. It hints at a humble yearning for mastery over numbers. Soon after, word arrives that the young master has made his entrance. The arrival of such a figure adds a new layer of intrigue. Its significance ripples through the council, hinting at fresh guidance or hidden agendas. They promise to impart teachings along the journey to Namchang, turning travel into a moving classroom. The prospect of learning on the road creates a sense of restless anticipation. It blends the march of war with the march of knowledge. Observing the endurance of Jiggle Hyung, they comment on his remarkable resilience. The acknowledgement serves as both praise and a subtle benchmark. It reinforces the theme of steadfastness amidst turbulence. Strategizing further, they suggest appointing Jumbo to manage the hotel, citing his superior administrative talent over salesmanship. The proposal balances practicality with ambition. It marks a shift in resource allocation within their network. The council agrees, granting Jumbo control of the establishment while allowing the other party to proceed elsewhere. The decision solidifies the division of responsibilities. It reflects a pragmatic compromise born of necessity. In a fleeting comparison, they liken the assembled forces to the Avengers, questioning the nature of that analogy. The reference adds a spark of cultural resonance to their grim deliberations. It underscores the heroic yet precarious stature they perceive in themselves. A solitary woman is described climbing onto the roof, her hair loose and untied, a silent silhouette against the night. The image captures a moment of solitary defiance. It hints at an unspoken resolve rising above the turmoil below. They harshly label the observer a creepy woman, urging her to cease her erratic behavior and descend. The rebuke cuts through the night air with cold contempt. It underscores the tension between authority and rebellion. A chilling description follows. Her face is cold, unbleeding, bearing the eerie stillness of a zombie-like presence. The unsettling visage amplifies the atmosphere of dread. It lingers as a haunting image of desensitized cruelty. They question why she vents her fury, then criticize her silence as a silent bitch, adding another layer of scorn. The accusation pierces the fragile calm that had settled. It reveals the volatile undercurrents bubbling beneath the surface. Further provocation arrives as they ask why she is present at all, threatening to burst your other ball. The menace is sharp, a verbal strike aimed at intimidation. It drags the tension to a near breaking point. Finally, they report the sudden appearance of a golden goblin in Poyango, an unexpected twist that shatters the prevailing gloom. The creature's arrival casts a strange, otherworldly glow over the scene. Its emergence promises new chaos or perhaps a fleeting hope. An unnamed figure stirs the tranquil waters of Payong Lake, their presence rippling across its once still surface. The sudden disturbance sends a chill through the surrounding hills, hinting at ambitions that refuse to stay hidden. Before the lake could settle, a man emerges, surveying the shoreline with a ledger of ambition. He begins acquiring vast tracts of land around Payong Lake, his transactions as relentless as the waves he just disturbed. Yet the wind carries whispers of a different fate for the buyer, as rumors swirl that he will flee once the coffers are emptied by robbery. The looming threat of betrayal casts a shadow over his newly claimed estates. Amidst these murmurs, a new power surfaces, snapping up an astonishing 200 square kilometers of contiguous ground. The scale of the purchase suggests a design far larger than simple greed. Meanwhile, a member of the imperial family steps into the arena, their involvement adding a regal weight to the land rush. Their hidden motives intertwine with the emerging consortium, tightening the web of intrigue. In the halls of power, Dan Wumyang rises to the office of Minister of Labor and Industry, his appointment sealing the political endorsement of the scheme. His new authority promises resources that could turn sweeping acquisitions into a nationwide venture. With Dan's influence looming, the conspirators voice confidence that the massive expanse they now control can be reshaped to serve unseen designs. Optimism and calculation mingle, as each acre becomes a pawn in a larger game. Simultaneously, a shrewd merchant extends a heavy purse, offering cash to purchase the coveted lands of Huqianrian. His proposal drips with urgency, as if the very soil must change hands before nightfall. The push forward never wanes, as forces edge closer to the heart of Huqianrian, narrowing the distance to its central stronghold. Every step towards the core tightens the pressure cooker of conflict. Elsewhere, a silent bidder lays claim to Oer land, the name barely whispered among the corridors of power. The acquisition adds another layer to the sprawling tapestry of territorial ambition. A commanding voice asserts authority over the growing negotiations, noting that despite the stakes, the opposition shows no fear. The speaker's confidence underscores the fragile balance of power. Inviting his counterpart to listen, the speaker extends a tentative hand, urging the other to hear the full weight of their proposition. The plea hangs in the air, a moment of potential reconciliation amid growing tension. In a quiet chamber, a simple object on the table is lifted at the speaker's request, revealing a concealed map of the contested regions. The unveiling transforms abstract talk into concrete strategy, each line of the map a possible battlefield. Yal, eyes narrowed, declares intent to buy every parcel marked on that very map, his ambition stretching to the horizon. The proclamation feels both decisive and reckless, a promise of domination. Those around him whisper that while Yal's resolve is clear, his plans border on madness, teetering between brilliance and folly. The doubts echo, reminding all that unchecked greed can become a perilous catalyst. In a sudden clash, an unseen defender steps forward, blocking both of the speaker's weapons with a single, fluid motion. The swift counter blows the tension like wind across dry leaves, leaving the aggressor momentarily stunned. Amid the tense standoff, a quiet order is placed for golden fish soup, fish-flavored jangyuk, palsenki, fish pancakes, and meat pancakes, a feast that seems oddly out of place. The careful selection of dishes hints at a ritual of hospitality even as swords gleam nearby. A murmuring accusation follows the meal, questioning the wisdom of lavish spending on those who once tried to end their lives. The bitter irony sharpens the air, turning nourishment into a bitter reminder of past betrayals. A lingering query probes why the lone figure remains upright despite the absence of a chair, the observation both absurd and telling. It underscores an unsettling resilience, a defiance that refuses to be grounded. The tension hardens as a command cuts through the room, demanding the distracted party cease diversion and take a seat. The insistence forces order upon chaos, compelling compliance before the next move. Beyond the clatter of dishes, a pressing question arises: where have the troops that once defended Huqianrian vanished to? The uncertainty seeds doubt about the strength of the remaining forces. An inquiry then probes the loyalty of the present individual, asking if they belong to the righteous sect. The search for moral alignment adds another layer to the already tangled loyalties. From the distant province of Nokrim, a representative steps forward, demanding answers about manpower and the looming expansion of water. His voice carries the weight of impending floodwaters, threatening to reshape the land they fight over. He outlines a plan to wait for the summer is water expansion, using Pyong Lake as a natural bridge to connect disparate territories. The strategy melds nature is tied with human ambition, turning seasonal change into a tactical advantage. Whispers circulate that they may soon be commanded to purchase the contested lands, a directive that would bind them tighter to the unfolding agenda. The prospect feels like a chain forged in the shadows of political maneuvering. They explain that once they secure Dang Chanpo and its troops, they would be positioned to assist in selling the newfound territory, if permission is granted. The conditional promise hangs like a fragile pact, contingent on unseen approvals. A greed-driven old boss, eyes gleaming, boasts of controlling half of Pyong Lake without ever drawing a sword. His bragging veils a ruthless ambition, suggesting that might is not always measured in blood. Skeptics put the mysterious figure to the test, finding it difficult to accept their claimed authority over Huqianrian. The doubt festers, threatening to unravel the fragile legitimacy of their command. Finally, the war drums echo as 7,000 men of Nokrim Helkianrian, swelling to a total of 10,000, gather along the Jiang River waterway, poised to strike Anli. The massing troops signal the inevitable clash, a tide of steel ready to surge forth. The alliance's warning pierces the uneasy silence, its words a stark reminder that the rumors circulating could tip the fragile balance. A cold dread settles over the gathered figures as the weight of impending news threatens to unravel their uneasy truce. Still carrying the weight of that warning, the representatives declare that their introductions are complete, their eyes narrowing toward action. They urge the room to abandon formalities and plunge straight into the matters that now demand a decisive hand. With the call for business echoing, an inquiry cuts through the tension, demanding proof of authority to decide the fate of Huqianrian's most coveted branch. The voice claims they were dispatched by that very authority, a claim that hangs heavy with implication. Before the question can settle, the manager's gaze snaps to the subject, his contempt flaring as he hisses the insult of bastard. The accusation reverberates like a blade, underscoring the chasm between loyalty and betrayal. Yet beneath that contempt, the manager cites a description of the subject as character, noting that no land was mentioned in the records. He challenges the subject's right to sell the property, casting doubt on the very foundation of their claim. Amidst the growing scrutiny, an observer notes the surreal calm of those who still manage to smile, labeling the scene as outright madness. The contrast between forced grins and the looming danger sharpens the sense of unease. The tension mounts as clouds gather, and a warning is sounded that rain will soon fall, demanding haste toward the alliance's stronghold. The impending storm mirrors the urgency that now courses through every heartbeat. Yet the warning carries a darker edge, cautioning that if the plan unravels, the Namgung family may be forced to confront the evil faction alone. A grim suggestion follows, to protect the people and then withdraw before the tide of conflict engulfs them. Before they can process that grim advice, attention shifts to the apprentices of the Helkshan 8, whose potential retaliation with trackers is highlighted. The lack of time to deliberate presses upon them, a reminder that every moment lost could seal their fate. Amid the escalating stakes, a chilling assessment emerges, ranking an unnamed figure among the top 200, described as insidious and terribly cruel. Even within the top 250, this individual remains incomprehensible, a haunting specter of terror. With that dread lingering, a stark warning follows: releasing their captives would expose the hidden designs that have guided the conflict. The implication is clear: silence is the only shield against unwanted revelation. Still reeling from the threat of exposure, the scene warns that killing the captive would unleash a relentless chase by trackers. If the rain arrives as foretold, the union of Helkianrian and Nokrim will flood Anhui, drowning the battlefield in overflowing water. Amid the looming storm and relentless pursuit, a sudden, almost comical dilemma surfaces: whether to relieve oneself or endure the discomfort. The absurdity of such a mundane concern underscores the pressure tightening around every breath. Before the tension can dissipate, Hyung Nim steps forward, greeting Sangrok with a measured nod and a direct inquiry about the offered terms. The exchange sets the stage for the negotiations that could pivot the balance of power. With the offer now the focus, a meticulous command follows, to mark every location of Helkianrian is wealth on the map, money, medicine, weapons, and all hidden assets. The directive transforms the battlefield into a ledger of potential conquest. In response, a confident affirmation echoes, confirming the accuracy of the prior statement. The agreement solidifies their shared understanding as they ready the next move. Yet the strategy deepens, revealing that the most effective tactic is to distract the enemy from behind, noting that the Gosu of Helkianrian has already vacated their base. This insight turns a potential weakness into a calculated advantage. Despite the elaborate plan, a clarification cuts through: the true target is not the soldiers of Helkianrian. The focus shifts away from flesh to something more intangible. Before the silence can settle, a probing question arises: what, then, is the intended target? The query hangs in the air, demanding a decisive answer. The reply is stark: they will ignore the soldiers, concentrating solely on destroying the enemy's properties and wealth. Such a ruthless focus promises to cripple the faction without shedding blood on the battlefield. Amid these cold calculations, a nostalgic recollection emerges, recalling lessons learned in martial arts from the Namgong family. The memory injects a fleeting spark of heritage into the cold schematics. A technical detail follows, stating that all sword attacks are unified into a single area effect. This revelation hints at the devastating reach of their blade-centric warfare. Before the plan can be set in motion, a practical concern is raised: whether the range of those attacks suffices. The question underscores the fine line between overwhelming force and overreach. Finally, the narrative pulls back, listing the genres that define this tale: isekai, murim, thriller, villains, action, drama, idol, and affirming that the story possesses them all. This meta-recognition encapsulates the sprawling tapestry of conflict and ambition that has unfolded. A cautious voice leaned forward, questioning whether the measured distance could truly be trusted. The uncertainty hung in the air like a thin veil, hinting at the stakes that lay beyond. Still bearing the tension of that query, an unnamed figure scoffed, branding the whole scenario nonsense. He gestured toward the yawning chasm, emphasizing the massive gap that rendered any hope futile. Before the murmur could settle, a seasoned warrior calculated that the stretch exceeded a kilometer, his eyes narrowing on the weightless sword hovering above. The levitating blade whispered of power beyond ordinary men, an omen of what might be needed. Yet beneath that calm, a voice whispered, probing if any event had already unfolded in that void. The question lingered, a silent pulse awaiting confirmation. With that lingering doubt, grim reports surfaced: the malignant faction now commanded 4 dark sovereigns, each matching the might of the 7 most formidable righteous masters. Their rise tipped the balance toward an unprecedented cataclysm. Meanwhile, a sardonic mutter cut through the heavy discourse, noting that the jest fell flat, its humor as insubstantial as mist. The remark underscored the bleakness of their reality. Still clutching that bitter humor, an officer reasserted the measurement: exactly 1 kilometer stretched between their forces. The precise number sharpened the strategic calculations. Building upon that calculation, the council resolved to dispatch word to the alliance and march its legions toward Hapbai, a journey projected to span 2.5 months. The timeline forged a fragile hope against the looming threat. Yet beneath the schedule, a seasonal warning emerged: in 2 weeks the rains would swell the river, while the enemy was poised to strike as the Allied forces drew near. The convergence threatened to drown any respite. With that ominous forecast, a strategist warned that an accelerated flood could truncate the travel time dramatically, forcing an earlier confrontation. The unpredictability of water added a frantic edge to every plan. Now haunted by the worst-case scenario, they imagined the foe seizing Hapbai ahead of the Allies, launching an assault unbound by the delayed rains. The thought gnawed at their resolve, demanding preemptive measures. Still grappling with that dread, an observation emerged: a massive fleet could not navigate the wooded corridor unless the waters rose sufficiently. The natural barrier became a tactical lever in their hands. Meanwhile, a scout proposed releasing a swift messenger bird to carry urgent word: pondering whether a diversion could halt the enemy's march toward Hapbai. The relentless raids on supply caches threatened to pull the adversary back to defend what they had taken. Yet beneath that strategic whisper, a bitter metaphor likened Hapbai to a fish glimmering on the hook, destined to be hauled in. The question hung heavy: who would gamble their fate on such a precarious gamble? Drawing from that comparison, a veteran observed that the floating sword signaled a wielder of surpassing strength, a blade defying gravity only for the truly unrivaled. This clue sharpened the assessment of their opponent's power. Amidst the tension, a grim whisper described the old man, his gaze as unsettling, igniting a desire to see his visage shattered. The visceral hatred hinted at deep-seated vendettas. Still echoing that hostility, a murmuring voice remarked on a diminutive, endearing figure who possessed a shrewd knack for negotiation. The contrast between appearance and acumen added a layer of intrigue. Meanwhile, the strategists pointed toward the hero's graves lying northwest of the river, sites that whispered of past glories. They also disclosed a concealed royal treasury hidden near the fish market, a cache of wealth that could sway the balance. Building upon that map, the discussion shifted to Five Land, a mountain rising east of Anli at the valley's mouth, shadowed by the ruins of the Iron Fist King's former manor. The terrain promised both refuge and peril. With the landscape laid bare, the commander urged the gathered foragers to share any intelligence they possessed. Their collective knowledge became the keystone of the looming defense. Following that plea, a curious observer questioned the method by which the hero had wielded the legendary sword gang, treating it as lightly as a mere thread. The inquiry probed the depth of his mastery. Meanwhile, a cold assessment answered that the weapon held no purpose for them, foretelling the wielder's imminent demise. The stark prognosis cut through the air like a blade. Yet beneath that fatalistic tone, a logistics officer disclosed that the principal barn of the main branch siphoned 20% of every harvest from the Yangja plain. This significant share underscored the economic clout at stake. Immediately after, the presence of a multitude of experts stationed as guardians hinted that something valuable, or dangerous, lay within those storerooms. Their vigilant watch raised the tension of hidden secrets. Meanwhile, a youthful voice confessed that the act was driven by pure enjoyment, a first-time thrill that felt undeniably cool. The candid admission added a fleeting moment of levity amid the gravity. Building on that enthusiasm, the same figure noted the practicality of the newly acquired items, vowing to retain them for as long as they proved useful. Their utility promised a modest edge in the coming struggles. Yet beneath the excitement, a weary companion remarked that they had arrived together, only to find the mental sparring with clever merchants tiresome. The boredom hinted at deeper impatience toward idle distractions. Following that sentiment, a pragmatic suggestion emerged: secure the adversaries by binding them first, removing any chance of sudden resistance. The proposal bore the cold efficiency of seasoned tacticians. Meanwhile, a concerned voice queried the intended destination of Hyung Nim, seeking clarity on his next move. The uncertainty surrounding his path added another layer of strategic doubt. Finally, the recap concluded with a sweeping acknowledgement that this saga encompassed every facet: isekai, murim, thriller, villains, action, drama, and idol, embodying a complete tapestry of storytelling. The breadth of genres promised an ever-evolving battlefield of narrative. Having shattered the mortal limits, he reaches the stage where his physical body surrenders entirely to the flow of inner energy. In that moment his flesh becomes a vessel, every heartbeat echoing the pulse of the void. Still feeling the rush of that fusion, he deems the current challenge a blatant injustice. Confident that his will can erect an impenetrable barrier, he readies himself to block the unseen threat. Meanwhile, a blade forged of ancient resolve cracks the heavens, its shimmering energy cascading down like a meteor of steel. The incandescent shards embed themselves upon the battlefield, painting the earth with the promise of war. With the sky aflame around him, he reflects on his martial prowess, a level whispered about in hushed reverence. He wonders whether destiny will finally grant him a glimpse of the legendary figure he has chased for years. The lingering awe gives way to a quiet realization that a martial artist's spirit cannot be measured by pride alone. He acknowledges that the loftiness of a warrior's mind rises beyond the petty accolades that bind others. Yet beneath that contemplation, the question of how his opponent might strike with a forbidden technique gnaws at him. He understands that true pride is not merely displayed but tested through the blade's unforgiving edge. Recalling the countless skirmishes, he counts the repetitions, 16, perhaps 17 cycles of clash and counter. Each encounter has etched itself deeper into the tapestry of his relentless pursuit. The sheer magnitude of what he has witnessed drives him to a single, breathless exclamation of madness. His mind reels, unable to contain the chaos that swirls around his senses. Still reeling, he turns his gaze toward the horizon, seeking the next pivotal sight that may hold the answers he craves. He hopes the destination lies close, a beacon that could finally break the endless grind. His thoughts settle on the mountain of Anli, where the Iron Fist King has concealed the wealth amassed by his iron grip. Legends speak of that summit as a vault of untold riches, guarded by the very might that forged it. The Iron Fist King, sovereign of Hyukchenrian, commands not only the mountain's treasure but also the formidable water dragon ship. His dominion stretches over the river's lifeblood, holding the fates of countless travelers in his clenched fist. Yet the magnitude of his power hints at something even more staggering than the tales suggest. A subtle truth lingers, suggesting that the king's influence may eclipse the rumors whispered in taverns. He is certain that word of these events has already rippled through the ears of allies and enemies alike. The buzzing rumors reinforce the gravity of the unfolding conflict. Above the tumult, the night sky erupts in a cascade of shooting stars, each fragment a fleeting beacon. The celestial rain underscores the surreal tenor of the battlefield. He watches the meteoric display, marveling at the sheer speed with which they streak across the darkness. Their fleeting brilliance mirrors the rapid pace of his own relentless advance. A lingering doubt gnaws at him: how can anyone claim the title of family swordsman after such reckless deeds? The question cuts deeper than any blade, exposing the fragile veneer of honor. He casts a cold assessment of the Iron Fist King, noting a stark absence of loyalty in his dealings. The king's ambitions, unanchored by fidelity, foretell a volatile future. A silent curiosity stirs: what would unfold should he reveal his thoughts to the Iron Fist King? The mere possibility hangs like a blade poised above his pulse. He observes the misconception spreading that he leads the Namgung family. The false perception fuels rumors, blurring the lines between identity and myth. The truth remains: the Namgung lineage has been a thorn in Hyukchenrian's side for decades. Their bitter feud has stained the histories of both houses with blood. Yet he is confident that when the technique finally reveals itself, even the most hardened eyes will recognize its signature. The inevitability of its unveiling hangs like a promise in the air. He interprets the harsh words hurled at him as mere insults, devoid of genuine cause for combat. Without a clear provocation, he finds no reason to draw his sword. His resolve strengthens further when he reflects that countless masters have already merged with nature's essence. His duty now is to shield Jang Il-Ryanji, a promise that outweighs any desire for conflict. He measures the Iron Fist King against the Nokrim Emperor, noting the king's strength rivals the emperor's own. In a one-on-one clash, he believes the king would tower even higher, an unwavering force. With that assessment in mind, he urges his companions not to fret over his fate. Their worries dissolve, replaced by a quiet confidence in his unshakable resolve. Finally, he declares that they now possess everything needed to face the looming storm. The certainty of their arsenal steadies their hearts as the next battle draws near. With a steady tone, he assures his companion that there is nothing to fear. The reassurance hangs in the air, a thin veil over the gathering storm. Before he could steady himself, the man declares his name, JY, a syllable that carries the weight of his reputation. The declaration reverberates, setting a silent challenge for any who would question his resolve. Meanwhile, he bows his head for a brief moment, uttering a respectful "OK Hyungnim" before urging his comrade to watch over himself. The brief exchange feels like a final benediction before the chaos they both sense approaching. With that resolve lingering, he brings up the fourth technique of the heavenly wind step, a maneuver whispered among elite practitioners. The mention hints at a deeper arsenal he intends to unleash when the moment demands. Yet beneath that calm, his command snaps through the ranks, demanding an unnamed figure to halt the intruder at once and use their own body as a barrier. The urgency in his order sharpens the tension, as the battlefield readies itself for a sudden clash. As the order reverberates, he acknowledges the power he wielded moments earlier, noting how the Fire 9 technique had left him invigorated. His confidence radiates, a stark contrast to the looming threat they face. With that confidence still burning, he proposes a test of endurance, urging them to gauge just how long the opponent can be held. The suggestion turns the fight into a cruel measurement of time and stamina. Meanwhile, the skirmish intensifies as a voice among them declares that they must prevent the enemy from wiping out more assassins and rally behind their commander. The resolve unites the group, forging a purpose amidst the chaos. Yet the momentum threatens to overwhelm them, prompting him to admit that he must temper his own surge. By pulling back, he hopes to regain control and avoid a reckless charge. In the midst of this strategic pause, the valley's ruler stands vigilant, his presence a silent bulwark against the encroaching turmoil. His guard signals the high stakes that now envelop the region. Yet even guardians cannot shield what follows, as the green block Buddha statue, purchased for 10,000 silver coins from a revered monk, dissolves into molten ruin, while treasures worth tens of thousands crumble into dust. The sudden loss shatters hopes, scattering wealth into the ether like fleeting whispers. With the valley's riches reduced to ash, even the finest manuscript of the imperial family's author is consumed like discarded newspaper, and a prized horse kept for General Yukwiman meets the same fiery fate. Each flame erases a piece of cultural pride, deepening the sense of irrevocable loss. Amidst the smoldering remains, he reflects on the valley's foundation, constructed over 3 relentless years, a testament to the labor that safeguarded the treasured relics of his 60-year tumultuous existence. The devastation now feels like an assault on the very core of his hard-won legacy. Even as the past weighs heavy, he concedes that the 8 kings were implicated, their names lingering like shadows over the battlefield. Their involvement hints at a conspiracy that stretches beyond the immediate carnage. With that revelation settling, he observes that their motives were rooted in greed, targeting the valley's wealth, and that they are far more than mere rebels. The discernment casts the conflict in a stark light of avarice versus honor. Finally, the consequences become undeniable as every dispatch sent to allies is intercepted and shattered by the clan's formidable arts. The systematic assault seals the valley's isolation, leaving them to confront the onslaught alone. The Namgung clan, bruised by recent devastation, convenes in hushed urgency, pointing fingers at the elusive Blue Heaven swordsman and the feared Yom Sok as the primary culprits. Their suspicion hangs heavy over the hall, a silent accusation that will shape the upcoming reckoning. Still carrying the weight of that accusation, the council learns of the grim aftermath, 2 wounded souls and 8 vessels still under repair, while every merchant ship has been reduced to wreckage. The magnitude of loss fuels a cold dread that settles like ash on their resolve. Before he could steady himself against the tide of destruction, a list of feared techniques surfaces: shape-shifting blink, towering celestial ladder, chi surge, overcoming the insurmountable, sword levitation, and the deliberate molding of sword chi. Each name reverberates like a threat, tightening the knot of suspicion around the Blue Heaven swordsman. With that realization lingering, whispers turn toward the Namgung family's own blade work, suggesting that the mastery of the Blue Heaven swordsman may be entwined with their lineage. The possibility that the very blood of the clan bears the mark of the crime deepens the unease. Meanwhile, the ledger of loss opens to a stark figure: 200,000 gold coins vanished without trace. The cold numbers echo the earlier devastation, a tangible scar on the kingdom's vaults. Yet beneath that cold calculation, the value of the missing wealth becomes painfully clear. It could purchase 3 or 4 coveted lands, those very territories that families covet for generations. The thought of such wealth slipping away fuels a simmering anger among the nobles. Still bearing the weight of those lost riches, the council reflects on a single individual whose influence eclipses even the greatest warlords, an undefeatable force unbound by honor. His shadow looms over every strategy, a reminder that power can exist without virtue. Before the council could act, a directive spreads: wait for the rainy season and let the legend of the Heaven Swordsman grow like a storm on the horizon. The plan relies on myth to sway hearts while practical defenses remain dormant. With that resolve echoing, a somber acknowledgement follows: a large loss is felt deeply, an ache that gnaws at every member of the clan. The feeling of badness settles like a chill in the air. Still clutching the memory of that chill, the speakers justify the 200,000 coin deficit as a necessary sacrifice to crush an arrogant man is honor, promising restitution within half a year. The promise hangs as a fragile beacon amidst the gloom. Meanwhile, a tactical whisper suggests that harassing merchants and fishermen could accelerate the recovery, turning civilian unrest into a weaponized engine of profit. The suggestion drips with ruthless practicality. Yet beneath that ruthless calculus, the council reaffirms a truth that cannot be bought: the honor of the 7 greatest martial artists stands untouched by gold or coercion. Their legacy remains a shield against mere monetary offers. With that conviction lingering, a question pierces the gloom: was the place itself also attacked in the chaos? The inquiry drags the focus back to the battlefield's broader scope. Before answers could be gathered, reports flood in of a powerful martial artist who sowed disorder throughout Murim, leaving a trail of broken formations. The mess he created threatens to eclipse all prior concerns. Still reeling from Murim's turmoil, the council learns that the elite Dark Killer troops cannot be summoned, yet hope glimmers as the OLR alliance edges closer to arrival. The impending reinforcement offers a thin thread of reassurance. Before the alliance could reach the front line, a quiet revelation emerges from the manor: its walls cradle relics of the speaker's masters, artifacts heavy with forgotten power. The presence of those heirlooms hints at a deeper well of strength yet untapped. With that echo of heritage lingering, speculation circles once more around the enigmatic Blue Heaven's swordsman, a figure now bound to both lineage and mystery. The chatter fuels the fire of anticipation. Meanwhile, an ominous prediction hangs over the battlefield: the roof is expected to fly off after the next onslaught, a visual promise of chaos about to erupt. The warning tightens the breath of every observer. Still holding that breath, he reaches for the shape-shifting sword, feeling the weight of its danger and the difficulty of taming such a blade. Retrieving it feels like grasping a storm bound in steel. Before the blade could settle in his grasp, he dashes toward the Black Sky Palace, launching an assault that tears through the looming darkness. The attack reverberates like a clash of thunder against stone. With that thunder still echoing, the assault above his head is identified as a feint, a phantom strike meant to mask true intent. The deception slices through the enemy's confidence. Meanwhile, the toll of battle becomes evident: recovery may demand lying still for 2 to 3 months, a forced pause that threatens to erode momentum. The looming downtime weighs like an anchor on his resolve. Still grappling with that forced stillness, he finds himself unable to stand properly, yet he presses forward using only a map as his guide. The determination to move despite his crippled state fuels a grim perseverance. Before the map could be fully consulted, the situation is deemed impossible even for an undefeatable individual, a verdict that shatters any lingering hope. The impossibility hangs like a black veil over his ambition. Yet beneath that despair, directions are whispered: one path leads northwest, the other northeast, each promising a different fate. The bifurcation offers a sliver of strategic choice. Still weighing those divergent routes, attention shifts to the northwest arsenal, where hundreds of cannons lie stored at Huan Yui Hyan's request, a silent arsenal awaiting ignition. The cannons promise firepower that could tip the scales. Meanwhile, another sham attack unfolds, a mirror of earlier deceptions designed to confuse and stall. The repeat of false strikes deepens the fog of war. Before the smoke could clear, the Great Black Sky Palace is mentioned once more, a looming citadel that stands as both target and symbol of the conflict. Its name alone summons a dread reverberating through the ranks. Still haunted by that looming citadel, a probing question arises about its exact location, an inquiry that could determine the next move. The search for coordinates fuels a tense anticipation. Finally, his fury erupts. He appears very angry, a blaze of wrath that threatens to consume reason. The seething rage marks the climax of his relentless struggle,